You all, at this time, we're going to have Senate Bill 125. If Senator Adams and her guests will make their way to the table, announce yourself for the record.
Senator Adam, if you would introduce yourself for the record, you and your guest, and you may proceed.
So nice, thank you. Thank you, committee. My name is Julie Rocky Adams. I am the senator from District 36. And I think that this is the very, very first time that I have ever been in front of the Ag Committee. So this is an honor to be in front of you all today. Being from Louisville, we don't have a lot of agriculture bills that come out. So it's really nice to be here. With me today is my friend Michelle Lawson. Michelle is, my son is calling me. Michelle is a constituent. We actually live pretty close to each other. And Michelle started an organization called Kentucky Animal Action. And Michelle is the one who brought this bill to me. Now, this bill is not new. The language has been out there has been circulating for a couple of years. COVID never allowed it to see the light of day, but because we were able to have those extensive conversations with a lot of the people who care about this issue, I think what we have before you all today is a really perfected bill on the cost of care. What we see is that it's really unfair for shelters and counties to have to pay for the often debilitating cost of caring for seized animals when it is the owner who is legally responsible for the animals. So I think counties will embrace this because it's a real cost-saving measure for them. And having said that, I'm going to turn it over to Michelle so that she can give you some more details about the bill.
Hi, thanks for listening to our bill today. And this is my first time in front of the Ag Committee as well, and it's an honor. Thank you for having us. I've lived my entire life on this earth as a Kentuckian. I'm proud of this great state. As wonderful as Kentucky is, there's always room for improvement, always room to grow. It's my personal mission to make Kentucky a better place. I've heard stories of financial hardships from the early 20th century and the 20s and 30s. And at no time in my life has budget ever been more important than it is right now. Senate Bill 125, Cost of Care, sets up a mechanism to help local governments recoup costs. Agencies are often forced to care for animals for months and even years. Cases lasting years is actually pretty common, which can result in hundreds of thousands of dollars. I'm going to name a couple cases just to give you some ideas of counties affected across the state. Elliott County, 109 animals seized. This is actually an old estimate. The cost is actually much more than this, but about a year ago, that price was $75,000. I'm sure it's probably doubled by now. Fayette County, 135 cats seized, $80,000. Franklin County, 38 pit bulls, $6,700. Spencer County had one of the longest standing cases known to advocates across the state. And in 2004, Spencer County spent over $100,000 trying to handle that case, and they had to drop it because they ran out of funds. And that case was actually just ended this year because the person passed away, so they were able to seize all of the animals. It's unfair, as Senator Adams said, for shelters, counties, and ultimately the taxpayer to have to pay the often debilitating costs caring for animals when it should be the responsibility of the owner. This bill also includes a mechanism where if the owner cannot or will not pay the cost of care, the owner has the option to immediately surrender the animal or animals, eliminating the potential gigantic cost of care. And it allows the case to proceed without the lofty costs that would normally go with it. I want to help Kentucky with Senate Bill 125 to help Kentucky counties recoup hundreds of thousands of dollars, and I ask you to also help Kentucky counties recoup Kentucky dollars. And with that, I would like to introduce Joy Estes. She's on with us through Zoom.
Joy, do you have a few comments?
Oh, no audio.
You're on mute. Yeah, introduce yourself for the record and then proceed.
My name is actually Joy Keeley. This is an old email that this is attached to. And I'm retired law enforcement from Jefferson County. I have seen the cases that Michelle alluded to in Jefferson County and other counties. It is my understanding that this mirrors quite closely, actually, to the way things are handled on in other states successfully. And as Michelle said, this would be a cost savings to every single county in the state, as well as all taxpayers of the state. Thank you.
And we'll take any questions.
Remember, got a motion on the bill to have a second. Got a motion and a second. And we do have a couple of questions. Senator Castlin.
Thank you all for the presentation. And Julie, yesterday you and I had a great conversation. So as we were just going through the presentation, being a commercial farmer in Davis County, Kentucky, and cattle, and there's several large hog operations and everything else. The word animal, is that going to include all animal? And is there any exclusion for livestock in this particular measure? And I just noticed this and just thought about that for a minute.
Sure.
This is aimed, it does include all animals, but this is aimed at domestic animal hoarding and those kind of cases that are currently being pursued. It's not intended to change what animal controls are already pursuing. Joy, do you have something to add to that?
Yes, I agree. This is exactly what animal control is already dealing with across the state in their jobs. So this is no different. The word animals is no different than what they deal with anyway.
Follow up.
Senator Castlin, go ahead.
And thank you for that. And I know your intention for the bill is great. And Julie and I talked about what your intention is. It might be something that I talked to the sponsor about maybe putting some language in there, just so that, for example, someone doesn't drive down the road and see a field full of cattle and think that they're standing out in the cold rain, that they're being abused, because that's their nature. And just to maybe have some language in there to protect the Kentucky farmer. And, you know, Julie and I talked about this. I live on a large family farm. When we leave the house, our dogs sit on the front porch. We've had them picked up before because they were walking down the side of the road on our family farm, and we had to go pick them up at the pound. And I just wanted to make sure that there was no way that this would be considered part of that, of abandonment or something like that. So
Right. And that your point is very well taken. And I look forward to, if we can, maybe do an amendment to satisfy those concerns. I'd be happy to entertain that.
Senator West.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My question regards the kind of the backside of this. So, in these animal hoarding cases, this is just my opinion. I think it's true, but one of the main reasons these people have the animals taken from them is their inability to feed and care for them. A lot of times they've run out of money anyway, and they don't have any money to properly feed the animals. So once the county files an action and you take the animals, how many of these cases do you think you're going to be able to collect from that person, the cost of care? And then what happens if they don't have the money? I mean, where does it go?
So I don't know if there's any studies done on how many cases will be able to proceed if they can't pay, but the mechanism is meant to, if they can't, they can immediately forfeit, and that eliminates all cost exchange. And then it saves the county in that way so that they don't have to care for the animals during the case.
They can be adopted or...
Yep.
Senator Webb.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a lot of concerns about this bill and how they apply across the nation in other jurisdictions, and having practiced animal law myself in jurisdictions across the state in regard to some of these issues, they're very. Everybody wants to save money. I feel the counties, but I'm a very big proponent of private property interest and due process, and who ends up sometimes benefiting from these situations are rescues and other entities that actually work to target and eliminate purebred breeders and other entities. And what I found that if the definition standards are usually vague and jurisdictions regarding prosecutions are not consistent, and if you forum shop, you can get a case brought against a legitimate breeder that is not always served with due process, expensive legal battles, I think it's already been mentioned, and other issues. These bills should be watched, vetted, and definitionally ensure that private property interests aren't compromised, due process is available, and legitimate breeders, mostly purebred animals, are not targeted. And that's my statement. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Webb. Any other comments or questions? Senator Givens.
Mr. Chairman, question. Chapter 525. We're adding a new section to Chapter 525, and I'm very supportive of the approach of the person who should incur the cost should incur the cost. The concern I have is specific on page 1, line 25 and line 26. 525, as it relates to what I've read here, as it relates to cruelty to animals, is more specific to domestic animals, dogs, cats, pets. 525 seems to be operating in that space. But we have language here in the bill on page 1. Any law enforcement agency or animal control office may seize any animal whose owner is found in violation of any animal cruelty law. I just don't know if we're casting a net here with this language that frightens me in the sense of the broadness of this encompasses much more than dogs and cats and domestic animals. And I think a couple of the questioners were headed down this same path. We have wonderful animal husbandry dedicated men and women across our Commonwealth that are farmers. Their livelihood depends on the income they derive from these animals. Some of the techniques we use are long-standing practices in animal agriculture that are known to be ethical, healthy, and beneficial to the enterprise and to the animal. I'm not going to go into details on some of them. But to someone on the outside, seeing it for the first time or experiencing it, it may well strike them as cruelty. And so I'm more than just a little concerned about those two lines in the bill.
Senator Givens, your point is well taken, and I think it's along the same lines as Senator Castle's concern. And I don't disagree with you. There are practices that are accepted in the agricultural community, and that is certainly not the intent of this bill. So I'm happy to entertain any kind of amendment to make sure that we specify that that is excluded or precluded from this language.
Senator Caston.
And Julie, I thank you for that. I was actually texting Commissioner Quarles in here if he could possibly help with some language on this, and so he said his office would be more willing to help us with that.
I'd like to add that most of my husband's family are cattle farmers and here in Kentucky, and I in no way want to hurt them in any way, so that's important to me too.
And Senator Adams, I know, and we've talked a lot about this in the past, and I'm glad to have you here for your first Ag Committee meeting, and I'm sure after seeing it, this is probably the best committee in the legislature. You'll be asking to be put on the Ag Committee meeting next year. But we are very thorough in what we do here in the Ag Committee, and making sure that it doesn't in any way inhibit our way of life. And I appreciate your openness to continually work with Senator Caslen, Senator Givens, the commissioner, and try to get the language right. And I know that you will do that and make sure that this bill, is right before we move it off the floor. Absolutely. So I do appreciate that, but it is glad to have you here. And as the floor leader said, you all don't have a lot of farm and a lot of ag issues in Jefferson County, but we on the Ag Committee love the way you all eat down there. You eat a lot of our product. Any other comments? If not, I've got a motion. We've got a motion and a second. Secretary, call the roll.
Senator Carpenter,
I'd like to explain my vote, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead, Senator Carpenter.
I'm going to vote yes, but being a member of this committee and work on a farm and have a farm and understand that lots of times things do come across when you say the word assume or that's not our intent. That doesn't mean somebody with bad intentions doesn't do the things that we want to do. Senator Givens and I were just talking about the previous bill, things that we had intent to do and they've done differently. And so that's half of what we do up here is you've always got somebody trying to figure out the intent to hurt somebody else. So Leader Adams will work to make sure that she does a good job with that. And I vote aye for the bill and knowing that we'll work with those definitions to clarify that. And Chairman Hornback is correct. When Chairman Hornback and I came in and Senator Adams was just a lonely senator like us, and then she become leadership. She come to us one day and said, I would like to pass a bill to where everybody has to put a blanket on the back of a cow. And that's when we decided to never let Senator Adams come to the Ag
Because
Committee
they get
ever
cold.
again. But I appreciate it, and I appreciate her work, and I know we'll clarify that to make sure we protect those
you, Senator
pets.
Senator Caslen,
Explain my vote real quick. Same thing, Senator Adams. Look forward to working with you on an amendment to, again, satisfy the ag community. Thank you.
that is a. Thank you. Senator Givens, Senator Howe,
Aye.
Senator Parrott, Senator Thayer, Senator Webb, Senator West,
Explain my vote.
Go
I'm
ahead.
going to vote no. Unlike Senator Carpenter and Senator Caslen, those guys are the glasses half full guys. I'm a glasses half empty guy. So I just have some problems, kind of along the lines of Senator Givens and the wide definition of animal cruelty. But sounds like you guys will be working on it as we go down the pike. Thanks.
Senator Westerfield, Senator Wise, and Chairman Hornback.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here.